Good evening. It is time for today's Tax Talk. I'm your host. I'm attorney Stephen Leahy, and it is Monday, February 21st, the year of our Lord 2021, or 2022. Forgive me. Years go by very quickly. Anyway, we want the news today. The PPP program, the Paycheck Protection Program, is back in the news. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Won't you join us? Well, not too long ago, the PPP program was talk of the town. All the news, because everybody was looking for the money to pay for their paychecks to keep people working when they shut everybody down. We haven't really heard that much about it. We just figure that the program's going on and it's finished, and that's all. But there's still news to be had here, and I think it's something that we should all know about. So that's what I'm going to talk about here today. So let's go to this. Let me go back here. Sometimes I forget to take that down, and I did. So, there we go. This is the Paycheck Protection Program from the SBA, right? You borrowed money from the SBA to pay your payroll and office expenses and some other expenses that were approved. Some of it was changed a little bit during the program because it was very difficult for some people to get their employees to work. People didn't want to work because of the COVID, and so they explained. Some people went out on unemployment. They took unemployment rather than taking from their employer. But there were some problems with it. Well, now we're coming to the point where all of it should have been forgiven. But not all of it has been forgiven, and so that's what we're going to talk a little bit about today, and that's what's in the news. So here's a good story. Small businesses still face $28 billion of unforgiven PPP loans. Almost 350,000 loans made to the small business in 2020 during the COVID pandemic haven't been forgiven, according to Bloomberg, with most of them less than $25,000. So we had all the big guys got in line first, and they got a lot of money. And they emptied the coffers, and they had the first one, plan one, and then they had to extend it. They had to go out and get more money to give it to the people that really what it was designed for, in my opinion. The lingering debt, about $28 billion, the analysis shows, is creating a burden for small businesses, including many run by minority entrepreneurs, say advocacy groups, community leaders, and business owners. Many are struggling with the process of seeking forgiveness under the terms of the loan program that distributed more than $800 billion over 2 years. $800 billion. And that's a lot of money. That was so much money we had never heard of it. And now we're going, they want $2 trillion more. And that's not to give away, that's just to spend. Doesn't make any sense. Angela Thompson, owner and chief executive officer of property renovation company in Florida, first applied for the forgiveness for a $172,000 loan in December 2020. Over a year and more than 100 calls to the loan providers later, she has gotten several notices saying she's on the hook to start repaying the debt. Initially, she applied for the forgiveness via Kabbage, the online lender that had given her the loan. But when American Express bought Kabbage in August 2020, it didn't acquire its pre-existing loan portfolio. Instead, her loan lived with another provider, K Servicing. Ms. Thompson did get a link to their PPP forgiveness website until August 2021. She immediately submitted her application, but in December, she got a bill for $22,000 for her monthly loan repayment, and then another in January and another in February. K Servicing customer service told her to ignore the notices, but the Small Business but the Small Business Administration, the federal agency that administers the program, still listed her loan as unforgiven in its most recent data updated on January 3rd. I assume that this year, 2022. I have great credit. How are you telling me to ignore a bill? Ms. Thompson said in an interview. This has me stressed out. K Servicing told Bloomberg News that the majority of PPP loans have been forgiven and that it's continuing to work with customers who have outstanding loans. Advocates like the Center for Responsible Lending on Thursday asked the SBA, the U.S. Treasury, and Congress to take steps to help small business owners with outstanding PPP loans, including by automatically forgiving those of $25,000 or less. Now, the process of forgiving wasn't that difficult, in my opinion. It was, you did have to jump through some hoops, like everything else with the government or anywhere else. There are hoops to be jumped, and sometimes people just get overwhelmed by the hoops, and they just throw their hands up and they don't do anything. And that's why so often you needed somebody to help you with this. Sometimes your bank was the one that was helping. They did with many of me and many of my clients, where I thought many of my clients were going to need my help. When this all came out, I thought that there'd be a lot of people standing in line for help from me, but it turned out that there wasn't. Right, because the banks were fairly good about it after the system got up and running. Initially, it was very difficult and clunky, and you couldn't get through, and it was very difficult. And remember, the first, when you applied initially, no one could get through because they had already designated those with existing relationships with the bank. They got it, and generally people with existing relationships and a big balance. They got in first and they got all the money, and then and so everybody else was locked out. And then they did round two, actually part two of round one, and then they did round two in the next year. And it was better in the second one because they prevented a lot of those bigger outfits from getting the second one because that's not what it was supposed to be used for. The National Urban League, National Association for Latino Community Asset Builders, National Coalition for Asia Pacific American Community Development, and Hope Policy Institute are among the more than 50 advocacy groups, minority business administrations, and minority-focused lenders that signed the letter. They say the smallest business owners, some of them sole proprietors, including drivers, cleaners, and landscapers, because they were all available. This PPP loan was available to even independent contractors. A lot of people didn't know that, and it took some education for them to even get their applications in. They have more challenges documenting payroll, expenses, and income. This is especially true if businesses are cash-based, lack professional accountants, or face technology and language barriers. We must come through for the most vulnerable. All small businesses are vulnerable, in my opinion. Advocates also are asking the SBA to rescind a rule denying forgiveness to borrowers who made good faith errors. Again, these things can get complicated, and errors are fairly easy to make and should be easy to overcome, in my opinion. Borrowers are desperate. Small businesses thought that they were doing everything right. Now they are being told their loans are not forgiven. One small business owner in said Bank of America denied forgiveness for a $15,000 loan because she left a specific payroll document. She spent 9 months pleading her case to the bank and local elected officials to no avail. Her first repayment bill for $2,000 came in October. It's not the bank's fault that there are rules set by the SBA that have to be met before the loan can be forgiven. The bank doesn't mind if it's forgiven. They're still getting paid, right? So they're going to get paid from the government. So they prefer that it goes through. At least that's my understanding. PPP applicants were responsible for determining their own eligibility under the complex program rules, the letter from advocacy groups reads, while eligibility for SBA loans programs generally is determined by a lender and SBA. For a PPP, this burden was shifted to the small business borrower. Well, they made it easier, but the bank still looked at all the loans and approved them, and so they didn't just accept everybody. Just because I said, hey, I'm eligible, that doesn't mean the bank was going to give me a loan. The SBA declined to comment on future policy decisions. The agency last month announced that borrowers could request an SBA review of partially forgiven PPP loans. There's a little article about that I'm going to get into in just a moment. While the vast majority of the 5.15 million PPP loans approved in 2020 have been forgiven, and many borrowers have a smooth process, as of early January, there were 349,372 unforgiven loans, and another 380,000 that were partially forgiven. The SBA has approved more than 11.4 million PPP loans since 2020. The forgiveness process is still underway for some of those issued last year. Borrowers on the hook to pay back all or part of their loans could be pushed into more debt, have their credit damaged, or possibly be forced into bankruptcy. And it's the smallest businesses with the fewest resources that are the most at risk. They can't afford to take on another penny of debt. It could be devastating. Applying for forgiveness can be so complicated that some small businesses simply give up. There's a gap in ability to complete the process. It takes a lot of time for entrepreneurs who are working to keep their businesses open. Many of the issues plaguing business owners seeking forgiveness also made it hard for them to get the loans in the earliest phase of the program. We already said that, right? Made it impossible because you just couldn't get it in the earliest phases of the program. In the first of the PPP loans, lenders distributed an outsized number to white neighborhoods. I don't know if they were white neighborhoods as much as those with large balances, companies. So, I don't know if that's an accurate portrayal. Minority-owned businesses tend to be smaller, and small businesses more often lack existing relationships to maintain banks and accountants to help with paperwork, and most don't have formal employees. Even for those who get approval, getting forgiveness can be difficult. That's true. The Los Angeles-based nonprofit got PPP loan for $38,000 in February 2021. Mr. Hung, who has an MBA, said that it was difficult to find basic information about forgiveness from his lenders, Northeast Bank, and this other fund. This other fund had a phone tree that goes in circles. I could not get a live person to help me. The process was horrible. I don't know how small businesses do it. I often wonder that about small businesses, about how they do it every day with all these things, because everything is very complicated. And, even just starting your business can be complicated. Coming up with ways to with taxes and bookkeeping and all of this, very complicated. And the more the government gets involved, the more complicated it becomes. It's just a fact of life. So here's the SBA issues update on PPP loan forgiveness appeals. For business owners who receive only a partial forgiveness on their Paycheck Protection Program, consider this your stay of execution. As Inc. reports, on January 27th, the Small Business Administration quietly issued a procedural notice outlining a new review policy for borrowers who got a partial loan forgiveness decision from their lender and were instructed to apply for less forgiveness than they wanted. As of last month, if you want to appeal a partial forgiveness decision, you will have 30 days from the receipt of a lender's post-remittance notification to tell the lender. The lender must then file for a loan review on behalf of the borrower within 5 days. The same process applies to borrowers whose lenders prevented them from applying for full forgiveness. The SBA is also telling lenders to notify borrowers who previously received partial loan forgiveness that they too may request a PPP loan forgiveness review. They must tell the lender of their intentions within 30 days of receiving the lender's notification of this new policy. Again, if borrowers were asked to apply for less than full value of their original loan, they're also eligible for a forgiveness decision review. Read the full story. Okay, that's encouraging. Many people took these loans, maybe wouldn't have taken the loans had they had they known they weren't going to be forgiven. Didn't get your PPP loan fully forgiven, there's still hope. Let's let the SBA know. The agency overseeing the $790 billion forgivable loan program issued some new guidance for those looking to appeal their forgiveness loan decisions. This is that Inc. story. I'm not going to go through the whole thing because that gave us much of what was important in here. But anyway, suffice it to say that there is a program out there. You should follow that program and make sure that you get that at least get it reviewed again, because most people qualified for that. And they say that the documents that they were asked can be hard to obtain. Shouldn't be. And that's why you needed some direction before when you started. So what I always advise people to do was to start a new bank account, put that PPP money in that one bank account, and then use that money for what they say to use it for. Then it was easy to prove where that money went. If you intermingled it with your other assets, then it became much more difficult. So that's what I would have recommended. But it's like you don't recommend things after the fact. You have to face them where they are today. So anyway, thanks. That's where we are today with the PPP program. I did a lot of reporting on this while it was active. We helped a lot of people, and we'd like to. So I'm looking for my. Okay, so here I am. Okay, so now I'm going to ask you to like and subscribe every day. Right, I ask you to like and subscribe because it's important people get this information that I'm giving. Right? Where did you hear about the PPP forgiveness program and how to apply if it was only partially forgiven? I'd say the answer probably is no. You did not hear it, so you heard it here first. And so your friends and your family and your business associates, they need to know these things too. So if you like and subscribe, share our information, we'd be more than happy to share this information with them too. So please like and subscribe our site. Today, matter of fact, today we went over 1,000 subscribers. So thank you very much out there. Thank you very much. We're over 1,000, 1,001 as we came to the show this afternoon. So 1,001 subscribers. We need more. We need you to help us. So thanks so much again and to help us. And remember, if you're fighting the IRS, first thing you do, get a copy of my book, Deal with Your IRS Problem Today. Go to freeirsbook.com, freeirsbook.com. Get a copy of my book, Deal with Your IRS Problem Today. So again, thanks so much for joining us. Perhaps the PPP program will still be in the news coming up. I'm sure there will be, and we'll cover it if something happens. So thanks so much for joining us. I appreciate you taking the time, and we look forward to seeing you. Now remember, tomorrow's Crypto Tuesday, and we're going to talk about cryptocurrency. We're going to talk about blockchain, EFTs, DAOs, and anything else that has to do with the blockchain. So join us, won't you, tomorrow here on today's Tax Talk for the Crypto Tuesday. Thanks so much. See you tomorrow.